All right. Hey, Jenny, thank you for agreeing to do this space. It's an honor to talk with you.
I am so happy to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Heck yeah. Hey, thanks everyone for joining. Uh, Appreciate you being here. I'm really excited today to be with Jenny Diggles, the co-founder of JennyCo. And to me, JennyCo is the perfect use case of applying Web3 technology to solve massive problems in the world. It's JennyCo is the first Web3 healthcare data exchange, and in my opinion, will bring about a paradigm shift in healthcare. And to me, just to simplify it, really a personalized AI health assistant for all of your health data to help you live a healthier life and know more about yourself. And JennyCo's official token launch is May 31st, so less than a week away. Jenny, just to kick it off, would you mind just giving us a quick introduction of what JennyCo is building and the inspiration behind it?
Oh, for sure. What we're building specifically is an app that will allow the everyday person to store and securitize their medical well-being data, IoT data from their devices, uh, but be able to use that data to get back very personalized insights about their own health and recommendations, as well as being able to lease their data compliantly and anonymously so that it can be used in different studies. So, this is really a way that we're viewing of putting the person at the center focus of their own health information and what they decide to do with it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, there's so many different ways to obtain health data today. You got your Apple Watch, smart clothing, you got all these devices, and it's not synchronized. It's like my doctor doesn't have a 24/7 feed of my blood pressure from my watch and this, that. And it's just like, why does that not exist? And one of the things I love about JennyCo is the dynamic health data branding. Can you delineate a little bit the difference between static, our current healthcare data model, versus a dynamic healthcare data model experience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when we look at currently where we're at, I have, for example, as you do too, tons of electronic medical healthcare records out there that have existed since you were born, more or less, including your dental records, and they're everywhere, and they just don't change. They stay the same. That's why every single time I go into the dentist, they ask me to update it because they don't know, but they're also only asking the questions that they are aware of to ask. And so it's often the same thing over and over and over again. But there's no dynamic information there. Furthermore, I don't actually get those records dynamically updated anywhere for me when I leave the doctor's office. Now, there are some things out there like My Chart or My Health, these different platforms where if you're going through a surgery or something like that, they give you this portal to log into, but it's not really all that useful. So that data just sits there. When we look at dynamic data, we are looking at what did I do today? What did I eat? What's my blood pressure? How well did I sleep? Those things factor in so strongly into how I'm going to feel and the effects my body's going to have. And those are big pieces of this. That's like 60% of our overall well-being is based off of what we're doing on a daily basis. That dynamic data is incredibly important for both our own understanding of our health, but also for our healthcare practitioners who don't usually get that insight. Like, as I think about the questionnaires I fill out at most doctors' offices, they really only get into some exercise. They'll say, how often do you exercise and at what intensity? And that's like pretty much it. They're not asking about my diet or stress levels or relationships in my life that are going to play a role as well. So that dynamic data is incredibly important. We can't really base how we're going to feel in the future off of an old static record somewhere, but we can make a more accurate prediction of how we're going to feel in the future off of the dynamic data we're collecting today.
100%. Yeah, I shared my experience with you, and I shared a video about it. JennyCo is really close to my heart. The past few years, my mom at 55, out of the blue, started feeling pain in her bones, and ended up being a stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis, which took her life within 2 years. And she dedicated her life. One of the things that really just killed me mentally is she was so healthy, dedicated her life, masters in health, and this came up out of the blue. and there's no, preconceived, or parents 83, 90. And to me, it was just like, what is wrong with this? Like, we just don't have the knowledge. Like, my mom should not have gotten this. This is, and then I've been thinking about it because, breast cancer has become my enemy. And I'm like, how do we cure that? Like, and it's data. Like, data is at the foundation, and just learning more and understanding more, with the 24/7 syncs and stuff. So I was just curious your opinion on having this dynamic health data model, having the genetic component as the baseline, how this could potentially contribute to revolutionizing healthcare research.
First of all, I love the personal connection around your mom. And that to me is like, when we see these examples in our own life of people around us or even for ourselves, going through something that feels like, man, they shouldn't have, this doesn't make sense. This is where I feel like our thirst for knowledge about ourselves and understanding how these things happen is really important. So when I think about examples like this, when we can get to dynamic data, real-time data, let's say somebody's wearing an Apple Watch and they just started a new anti-inflammatory drug from their doctor. But all of a sudden, they're noticing their blood pressure is going up, and that should not be happening with this medication. What's possible then, because of these data sets that people will be able to build inside of their JennyCo app, it could then, the AI could start looking at that. It could say, okay, no, that shouldn't be happening. What's going on with their genetics? What's going on with the rest of the data around this person? And then it can start to figure out, like, what are the factors at play here? And then, hopefully the person can alert their doctor, say, hey, something's going on that shouldn't be going on. Here's everything that I already currently know. So we want people to get to that place instead of not noticing maybe a warning sign. It's too easy. It's funny how often I will just deal with pain, for example. Oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. Just keep pushing through. I think women do this in general. And so if there's an alert of some sort that's like, hey, this actually isn't normal, look into it. And here's some factors that could be around it. I feel that early interventions could happen a lot sooner and could prevent more catastrophic events like your mom just all of a sudden, it's like when she found out, she was already in stage 4. So
Exactly.
how do you get to the earliest potential, not even like you're even there yet, but the potential could exist so that something can be course corrected to completely avoid it.
Yeah, no, spot on. Like, I think about, 24/7 real-time data feeds from all these IoT devices, and clearly, cancer just destroys the body. And there had to have been markers. If they could have tracked all my mom's markers, and if you find it early, like, we can, survive cancer, but we just don't have that right now. And that's one of the things. An interesting tidbit is, like, the month my mom was passing, I found constellation, and maybe there's a little God component in there, but I
Mm-hmm.
just dug deep. Like, I couldn't, it was my, I don't know, distractory method or what, but I just researched like crazy, and all of a sudden JennyCo's in my life. So just a little, synchronicity there. But I wanted to talk about the cryptocurrency element of all this. To me, cryptocurrency as an incentive mechanism to allow people, one, to own their health data, own all this IoT sensors, own your genetic component, bring in your EHR, bring it all into this 360-degree. And then you have AI giving you real time insights into how you can live better. But the crypto element in terms of incentivizing collection of healthcare data, could you talk a little bit about that element, and compensating people in addition to providing this valuable service?
Absolutely. I think it's helpful to currently understand how clinical trials work. So right now, there's really two ways that information is gathered in a mass way to either produce new therapies or drugs, whatever it may be. It's either a clinical trial or what's called an observational study. So clinical trials largely lean on drug-based therapies or devices. They call them interventions, and it relies on physical locations of people being able to make it into a hospital or clinic, their doctor, wherever these sort of trials are happening. And they're also very focused just on the task at hand. They're looking at, let's say their metric is we want to lower blood pressure. They're very, very focused on that. And so that is the metric they care the most about, which means that maybe some of the babies getting thrown out with the bathwater inside of some of these studies And they also can include risk and injury, and they're not guaranteed to give back any feedback to the participant around what they learned about them in particular. It's rather this whole data pool of people, and they get their information and they move on. So then you have observational studies. These can include some protocols or therapies, but they're usually just for studies. So, like an example would be, let's study a group of healthy elderly people and what their habits are to understand if there's a connection to dementia. Like Harvard did a long-term 80-year study of men. It is an incredible study what they found out. But these again are long-term, not necessarily giving back insight or feedback to the participants while it's going on, but that's how it works. Now, right now, there's some challenges around compensation for how these current studies are happening. So it can sometimes be viewed as coercion, or people will fake a health history in order to fit into the study if the pay is enough. And so, on the flip, though, compensation leads to higher enrollment, fewer dropout peoples, and it can also reduce the timelines of the study. So, compensation is a very important piece. So, as we look at how these things currently work, where we fit in and where I believe we can do this so much more efficiently and better is that we don't need to have physical locations. We're decentralized. So we can work with people who are everywhere, which means that there can be a much larger pool of participants to engage in a study versus just looking at, say, Denver, like where I live, and you need to find a certain group of people. We can also then use algorithms and AI to get insights into the holistic health of a group of people to start to identify maybe there are some other causalities going on here within this group that are leading to the conditions that they might be struggling with. So by giving people compensation through cryptocurrency, it does a couple of things. So it encourages them to participate in the study. They also have to contribute some of their own JennyCo tokens into it that comes with their data that basically validates they're real and it's them. And then it's locked in there for the portion of the study. Of course, anyone can leave at any time, just like any sort of study like this, and take what they brought in with them. But if they stay for the duration of the study, they're also going to be given back compensation for that and insights. So this is where things have fallen off in the past for other studies, in my opinion, is they don't necessarily always, they don't have to tell the participants what they learned about them in particular. And for us, that's the most important piece, is each person being able to know themselves a little bit better. So, we view this as a way to speed up the timeline and use some, and also when we look at our people participating in a study, it's much harder to fake a health history if your genetic information is in the app, if you're then uploading any other medical documents. It's kind of hard. You can't pretend to all of a sudden have breast cancer when you don't. So it makes it much cleaner and better for the people who want to research that kind of whatever the condition is that they're getting into. So I really view this as a way for people to then want to engage, to say, great, I'm going to get to know myself better. I'm going to get to earn some rewards out of this, that I'm not just being used, essentially. And right now, a lot of our data, that is that static data that's just out there, is being used in this way for the gain of other entities without any of the people who are essentially contributing information being aware of it or getting any sort of compensation for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really well said. Like, I think about my mom's case and her experience. It's like, okay, she went through that. Can we at least have a holistic view of her health data, her genetics, so we can analyze and use, what she had to go through to advance the world and cure this damn disease? But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to. Oh, good. Did you have a response there?
Yeah, it's just really interesting. I just feel like there is so much information that people don't have. And when we look at our families, what's so funny to me is how we have things like Ancestry and 23andMe, and they'll tell me what my family's, very kind of superficial aspects of the family are, but it's not getting into the deep, this sort of data. So one of the ideas for a future state of JennyCo is to have a place where families can create their own groups, contribute their data, and really start to see, do we have genetic predispositions to things? What's going on? And also to help each other keep tabs on their family members. Like my dad's going in for a surgery tomorrow, and I know that because he told me, but it'd be great if there was a way for me to kind of monitor and be a part of that, and encourage his healing and well-being. So there's just some real missing aspects of our ability to to help one another and as a family to identify those trends. So like if for the other women in your mom's family, how that could potentially impact them. And if they have similar traits, markers, and genetics, that can make a big difference in prevention for them too.
Yeah, and I've heard you in the past talk about Ancestry.com and 23andMe. It's like they literally are offering this test at a break-even price because they're selling your genetic data in the background. That
Mhm.
made me so mad to hear. That's crazy.
Oh, dude, it made me so mad the first time I heard it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And what's funny is my mom had just sent me a 23andMe test, and I was like, "I'm not gonna take this," but it made me so mad. And then this was probably 8 months ago or so. Michael and I were on a video call with an investment group, and I brought that piece of the story up about how that's just not fair. And this guy on the other end just starts smiling, and he's like, "Jenny, I was a part of bringing 23andMe to the public market. Everything you're saying is absolutely true." And I'm like, good. Cause like, I read that and I felt it in my guts. I was like, that absolutely makes sense to me. But to have somebody else who was on the inside validate that, I was like, oh, I'm glad it's so, I mean, in a way, like I hate that it's true, but I'm glad that it's true as well, because it proves that there's a really big opportunity for each of us within this to claim that money for ourselves instead.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just absurdity. And I know you and your husband Benjamin very passionate about Web3 and data ownership. Like data is the new power. And it's just with these conglomerates like, that clearly don't give a you know, care about us that much. But speaking of Benjamin and Constellation, one thing that like layer zero technology, distributed ledger technology offers, and to me, Constellation's hypergraph uniquely, which JennyCo is building on, is the ability to synchronize disparate data sets. It goes along, I guess, with that 360-degree view of your health. Oh, I'm going to bring my genetic test in, my doctor records, my IoT all in one, and then I'm going to have my AI to analyze that.
Mhm.
And I was thinking to myself, so let's say there's 5 breast cancer research companies, but all of them have the same mission. All of them want to cure breast cancer. With JennyCo's technology, with Layer Zero technology, is there a way for them to all port their data sets down to a common layer to 5x, their data set capabilities to run AI, ML, and run analysis and research and figure out cures and new causations?
Yes. I mean, I think this is all possible. And what's crazy is it feels like it's only becoming possible like right now, with having access to something like Constellation's Layer Zero protocol, to having these IoT devices that are constantly collecting information that can be real time validated and pulled into a system. And then also now with the release of really good AI tools, that like right now, it feels like this is now the potential of where we can get to. And what's great is, um, you know, in general, AI doesn't have a bias. It's just looking for data, it's looking for correlations. And what we do deal with oftentimes in the real world, engaging with people who are trying to understand our condition, is there can be bias, and that bias can be based off of what they've learned in the past and what has worked for them, which could lead them to have a blind eye to aspects that they don't notice or recognize. And so we want to eliminate that. It's funny how the word zero trust is like kind of funny to me, because in on one hand it sounds like I don't trust you, but I don't need to worry about trusting you because there's zero trust that we need
Yeah,
to have.
absolutely.
But it's so true. It's like we want to be in a place where there is a way for all of this data that is coming in now that we do have access to be put to use, to get that into a place where it can be studied and analyzed and hopefully find some different correlations that haven't been found before. And in that, then find some cures. It's been interesting to me that we have so much cancer in this country, and yet a cure isn't really, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily been the focus at times. Sometimes
It
it
doesn't
seems
get
like,
talked about.
no, it's like the money making aspect,
Ridiculous.
and so there's money to be made in the medical field. It's a huge industry, obviously, huge. And so there's more money to be made in keeping someone unwell and in that middle state than them dying or them becoming well. And so there's this weird tension that is kind of held in place there by the current therapies that make the money, the doctors and nurses, the facilities, they all make money off of cancer, for example. So where is the incentive to actually find a cure? that's sometimes what I really go back to from a very esoteric standpoint. I'm like, they don't have an incentive. There is no incentive to find a cure, because that means then their job, their money, their patents, whatever they have, are not as important financially speaking. So when we can strip those biases away, we can strip that from the table and really start getting into better data, clean data, better collection, better analysis. I really do believe we will be able to find a cure. And furthermore, what's so cool about this dynamic data is being able to collect it over a period of time. Like, so being able to collect it from a healthy person who may have a genetic predisposition saying, hey, they may or may not get breast cancer, and studying that person and their decisions to see, does that turn on or does it not? And what were the things that factored into it, could prevent so much. And then there can be protocols that people can say, hey, in general, this is what we're finding. If women take these 8 steps in their life, they do these things, you will prevent breast cancer from happening 95% of the time. Like, that would be so exciting. So the dynamic data is going to matter so much versus the snapshot in time of me seeing the doctor today and then looking at a really old record from maybe a couple of years ago. That's not going to be all that helpful moving forward.
100%. Yeah, no, this is an extremely powerful vision. I wanted to kind of parlay into micro DAOs or groups or communities that form within JennyCo. One of the things I've thought of is, okay, you've got this mission, let's cure breast cancer. So can we then go to everyone that have breast cancer and say, hey, here's your genetic, let's get your genetic test. Here's an Apple Watch, here's this, here's that, and then we can collect their data. But more importantly, yeah, you can compensate them for it, but it's like, hey, you are contributing to the cure of this disease that is going to take your life in a lot of ways, which is so sad to say. But to give someone the empowerment, the financial one is huge, but the just being a part of a mission, like, is that kind of how a
Mm-hmm.
micro DAO works? It's like a proactive outreach to people. Hey, we want to cure this. We're going to. Could you expand
Yeah,
on that?
absolutely. It can be. So the way that these groups will work is it could be initiated by, let's say, JennyCo, it could be initiated by a research institution, or it can be initiated by participants inside the app saying, hey, I want to create a group around this thing. What we think a lot about are the orphan diseases. So an orphan disease is something that affects 200,000 people or less in this country. There's about 7,000 orphan diseases, which equals, right now, there's about 30 million people in the country who are dealing with something where there's no research being done, there's no therapies provided because there's no financial incentive. Like, if they were to get all these people together and do a study to create a pharmaceutical that's really only going to go to 75,000 people, well, either that pharmaceutical is going to be so expensive that the people who actually need it can't afford it, or it will never be developed because the potential market isn't big enough. So, what we see happening is a way and a place for people to contribute their information into a group if they meet the parameters of it. And then within that group, there can be research and analysis going on consistently around what that data set is saying and doing, and especially as the data is dynamically being updated. So in that, hopefully then there can be some conclusions that are being drawn, like, okay, if you're dealing with this rare orphan disease that's affecting your skin, what we're finding is 95% of the participants in this group all have this same genetic disorder. And with that, this is the potential likely switch of how to change that. So we really see it being very powerful. The groups that are buying this data, it's vast. It's not even just medical companies anymore, or the people that want to access this sort of data. So we know we will have groups come in and ask to set up studies, but we want to empower people as well. So, for example, like Benjamin's mom, she died from colon cancer. And weirdly, most of her siblings did as well. And so, what would have been amazing is to be able to take them, and if there were any other people that grew up in their area that they know that also died from colon cancer, get them in a group, study their DNA, study what's going on with them to see, hey, what's the connection here and what caused it. Of course, it's way too late for that now, but when I heard that, I was like, that's really odd. So, anyway, I want people will be able to create their own groups as well, to create sort of studies to keep track of themselves and other people who are like them.
I love your connect with the financial incentive in pharmaceuticals and medical. It's like you look at the model and it's, oh, they'd rather like just keep someone slowly alive. Like my mom, the drug she was taking, it was $12,000 a month, and these cancer drugs, and it's like, and she was the same way as you. She's like, she was researching all this alternative and diets, and she found this, you know, she didn't want to take the pharmaceuticals almost because she doesn't trust it, because that model is the only model. And
Hmm.
so she shifted to this diet, and we were all kind of like, okay, like, yeah, but like we have to stick with the trusted traditional. And she found this like Chinese doctor with this Chinese tea. It was like 10 grand a
Hmm.
month. And she was taking this tea because you're just grasping for things, And it's like, where's the data behind it? And I think like what's so cool about Constellation and JennyCo and Layer Zero and the Visit, it's like there's ground truth digital data. Like we can make decisions. People who are sick can see their options and see digital truth. It's not just a few books that got written. Because, yeah, I'm just curious your
Hmm.
thoughts there.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of medical research papers out there that are just flat out wrong. In 2005, there was a report released that estimated up to 80% of most of these like research groups, their data is extra flawed because they're either using circular references, basically referencing themselves to reference their current data, or it is so biased because of where they got the money from to do that research study that they will omit a lot of information to just try to get the result that they're looking for. And so there's a big challenge within that. And because we don't have access to the raw data that they use, and we can't really see everything that they may have omitted or have ignored, we're left with trying our best to trust what other people are saying versus having our own data, our own story, our own narrative, being able to see into that for ourselves. That's a much more empowering place to be. And I I just have had enough medical experiences myself where I'm like, ooh, I don't really trust this opinion, and I can tell it's coming from a biased place. Or even my own mother, when she died recently, but she lived for 8 years with ALS, which is insane. But I also learned from her ALS was a catch-all bucket, and the doctors were like, well, we just don't, when we don't know what it is, when it's not MS, it's not these other diseases that look similar, we call it ALS. And I'm like, wow, that's really disheartening, because then where do you go? What do you do? And so they're just playing whack-a-mole with her, like, try these pills, do this thing. And then it was so exhausting for her. And very early on, I'm, because I was in the cannabis industry for a long time, I was just encouraging her to look at some alternative options and maybe to get some genetic testing done and to see if she has something else going on. Eventually, she did. But my dad, after she passed, it was like on her Memorial Day, he pulled me aside. He goes, I just really regret that early on we didn't investigate other options, that we didn't get more information. And instead, like she said to me straight up once when I was like, hey, you should try it, just maybe incorporate some CBD just for your pain and stuff that you're going through. She's like, no, no, no. I'm not going to use drugs. I'm going to do what the doctor tells me to do. I'm like, well, the doctor is giving you Oxycontin, mom. Like, that is hardcore hillbilly heroin right there. Like don't fool yourself. But later on, my dad just like, I wonder, because when they did finally make a switch and they finally started to notice, oh, my mom, she doesn't methylate, she doesn't process heavy metals in her body, and they started to give her just different supplements. My dad was like, it was amazing because she all of a sudden, instead of declining, she was stabilizing. He's like, but I feel like we started that too late, where she was at a point where her body was already so broken down that it may have not had the opportunity to rejuvenate and come back. But had they actually tried something different up front, he just had this regret. He's like, maybe she'd still be here. And I encouraged him to, dad, like, don't dwell on that, and maybe just take that lesson and apply it to yourself. So as you're going through your life, and he's 72 now, and you're going, if you ever run into health issues, really take that lesson with you and learn for yourself what's going on with your body, versus just 100% automatically trusting that one other person knows exactly what is right for you.
100%. Yeah, 100% with you there. And I'm really sorry for your loss of your mother. The mother that's a tough one. It's a tough one to swallow, losing the mother. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry that that happened to Benjamin as well. But now here, look at us. We're here, warriors, talking about this stuff, and their deaths will not be in vain. And look,
exactly.
look at you with. But yeah, so I wanted to, yeah, kind of shift this to the JennyCo app. And I love your emphasis. I've watched all your interviews, and you always emphasize the user experience of it, and you want people to be like excited and comfortable using the app. And it's just all about the user experience because the more people you can add value to, the more that data is going to flow into the system, the more data we're going to have to analyze. And then you think about this in advance with AI and ML, it's like the limiting factor is quality data, dynamic
Mhm.
data, data assurance, um, can you talk a little bit about the initial stage of the app and what'll be
Mhm.
offered just in terms of like the experience and questionnaires and lab tests, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we launch, we have, some of the core features of the app. Those include obviously having a wallet to hold crypto, as well as detect if you bought a JennyCo NFT, it will detect that. So some of those NFTs have additional booster rewards attached to them, so it will know what to do with that within the app. There will be surveys, and that'll be an initial way to just get some data sets going. So if somebody's like, I don't know how to get my electronic healthcare records, I didn't do a DNA test, it's like, that's okay. You just start somewhere. So there will be surveys for people to take in order to start building out their profile of their data, their insight. We'll have some initial groups that people can join and start to contribute that data. We'll have a chat GPT integration. I'm like laughing to myself because we're calling it dumb. It's just a dumb integration. So this is this is not an integration that will be looking at any of the data at all. But it is a way for people to at least get comfortable with the idea of, maybe using AI to ask for insights into what should I be doing for a workout. If I weigh 150 pounds now and I want to lose 10 pounds, what is the best way I can do that? What's the fastest way I can do that? What are so being able to use it in that way, but it's truly dumb. It will not have access to anyone's information, and we'll have all these disclaimers that are like, do not share anything personal with this piece of this. This is just here to start to create that AI aspect to it. And then we'll have a lifeline, which is where people will store their data, and they'll be able to see essentially in a chronological order all the things that have been contributed into it, whether it was pulling in Apple IoT watch data, or you went to the doctor's office, you took some medication, whatever it is. It's a way to start to chronologically organize that information. And then some of the features that will come next, we'll have a shopping page in there. We're working on some integrations right now with partners on how we can make it really seamless. So when somebody buys a test, takes the test, the data shows up right back into their JennyCo Lifeline Vault area, so that they don't have to worry about uploading it or doing anything like that. So shopping will be coming very soon, and then an intelligent version of AI. So ChatGPT has access to 1 billion websites, but apparently it's not currently scouring for more. So it bases it off of that. It doesn't give personalized information for somebody. It's just really generic based off of what it's read. It's just a large language model. But where we'll get to is essentially what we're calling a walled garden. So we'll be using like these walled garden instances of a couple of different AI platforms that will be looking at my personal information and giving me personal insights. So this is really we we don't AI is wonderful, but we do not want any of our users' data exposed or contributed back into something. This has to stay localized. So what's nice about this is the system can get smarter and smarter and smarter. So let's say I'm in that place where I'm like, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, and I'm starting to get insight back based off of my genetics, activity, all sorts of stuff of what I should do. I'm going to be able to say, hey, it worked. Ding, ding, ding. I lost the 10 pounds. Or I'll be able to say it didn't work. And then the system gets smarter. It's like, oh, okay, so that worked for her and this didn't work for her. And in the meantime, it can also look at the overall JennyCo pool of data where people, if they've allowed for this, again, this is all consent based. There's no it has to go into these pools. You have to let the AI look at it. Not at all. Like, this is very consent based. So if somebody is part of the overall JennyCo DAO group, it can look at that too, and it will start optimizing and finding different connections. So to us, that's really exciting. I'm very excited for that piece of it to come out. So yeah, the app when it launches is going to have some of the core things for people to do, and then I mentioned this on one of my calls last week. We have so many cool features coming out, like just some stuff that makes this app really, really fun. But when we launch, it's the backbone. These are the backbone core pieces of what people will have to kind of master. and what they'll be using on a regular basis.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I can't wait to use it. It's just it's going to offer so much value. I got my genetic test. So let's say I get my genetic test in there. I start doing some lab tests, and we got the AI component, the questionnaires. Um, is the data that the AI is analyzing, like let's say, I think I'm like, Sicilian, German mostly, and some other stuff, English. Is that are those correlations? Is that AI providing recommendations to me based off of like outside databases that correlate between genetics,
Mm.
or is it all within the JennyCo database that the AI is using only?
So there are some AI, like for example, we'll probably use something called stability AI, which looks at PubMed resources and research, which is largely just basic biological research. Probably some of the best fundamental research done, not like the research that I was mentioning earlier, which might have circular references and biases. So those AIs that can reference that sort of data will be referencing it. So that will bring in that aspect of what we know scientifically speaking, what we know biologically speaking, and we'll be bringing that into it as well. So it's not just going to be based off of the JennyCo data, it's going to be referencing some other reputable sources of information as well.
Wow, that's great. And like your vision of this, I know, we're at the early stages, but do you see the healthcare model becoming proactive? Like, hey, Julius, your blood pressure's been high these past 3 days, and the JennyCo app can alert me and say, hey, there's something going on, and even a doctor sync to my primary care doctor. Is that possible for my real-time
Yes,
IoT data feeds?
absolutely. I mean, absolutely within the app that
Wow.
is a possibility, where it will be able to start surfacing insights to you as things may have changed, like, we're noticing like this is a little off and correlating it with other data. The aspect of tying in with doctors to me is it's such a cool piece. I mean, for one, I am seriously annoyed every time I go to the dentist. I fill out another form. I'm like, guys, I go every 3 months to get my teeth cleaned, and I'm like, no, this is nuts. I'm so tired of filling these forms out. But so there's that aspect, but also being able to feed the doctor more information. Now, the challenge becomes that oftentimes these doctors' offices, they don't have systems to analyze that kind of data, whereas that's what we're setting up. They're looking at, like I said earlier, just basics. What are your basics? What's your blood pressure? How much do you weigh? How tall are you? That kind of stuff. So what would be pretty great is to be able to port over to a doctor very easily that basic data they're looking for. And then ideally in some sort of note section, because we have to think about the platforms they're working with as well inside of their offices, in some sort of note section, allowing our system to paste in there the current kind of view of what's happening with the patient. Here's what has been tracked, here's the trends, whatever it may be, so that the doctor can start from a better place of knowledge to hopefully rapidly find a better solution. So that's a huge goal. And then also to take that data back. So I almost envision going into my doctor, dentist, whoever, scanning a QR code when I check in, updates all my medical information. And when I leave, I scan the QR code again. So I get all the new updated information back, whatever the notes were from the doctor on that visit. That way, I'm not missing anything. Like I was recently had a blood test done and it was the weirdest thing. So the doctor, she, I went in and she's like, oh, we got your blood test results. Everything's good. And I was like, well, and I could see the paper just like sitting next to her. And I'm like, I'm really curious about all of it, not just the one metric that she was concerned with, but she didn't, she didn't give it to me. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? This is strange. This is my information. And maybe she assumes I can't interpret it. I don't know what to do with it, or I have nothing further to do with it. So she's just simplifying it down. You're fine. Like, okay, but I'd prefer to have all the data so that over time, as my profile builds, I have a really great record of seeing what's been happening to myself over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's like you're trusting one person's analysis of your data, and it's not even a holistic view. It's craziness. Like I was thinking the other day, now that I know so much about JennyCo and what's possible, I'm like, why does my doctor not have my genetic code at his baseline when he's telling me stuff? Why does he not have my Apple Watch step count, heart rate? Like I have like white coat syndrome. Like sometimes I go to the doctor, they take my blood pressure, and I'm like, I guess a little nervous and it's high, and they're like trying to give me BP medicine. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just I don't like that. Take I don't know, but yeah, that's I'm just okay. So this is something that, I watched Diggles, or Benjamin, your husband, Jorgensen, and they just talked. This Hypergraph Hour 50 was about IoT and IoT to the hypergraph, IoT syncing directly to an immutable distributed ledger. And it got me, I'm like, oh my God, if JennyCo could create like healthcare data collective hardware devices syncing
Hmm.
directly to a DLT owned by the user, synchronized across this entire layer zero, data set, basically. Is there any, I know you guys have so much going on, so forgive me if this is too much, but is there any IoT hardware development initiatives in your mind?
Yeah, and it's never too much because I love the big picture. I love like fast forwarding and imagining what's possible. That is just where I have the most fun. And so, yeah, there definitely is that. And right now, getting hardware devices manufactured is coming down in price dramatically. We have seen a huge increase of providers of all sorts of things, whether it's rings, bracelets, sleep pads you put under your mattress. Even the other day in our Telegram channel, or just yesterday, I think somebody had mentioned the whole toilet bowl, like urine analysis, fecal analysis
I
thing, which
saw
it's
that.
so funny because just like a couple weeks ago, Benjamin and I were brainstorming about hardware devices that could collect medical information and what would be best. And I was like, I wonder if there's anything around toilets. And so we looked it up and I'm like, there it is. Like, so anyway, there's so much possibility. And so we plan on integrating with as many as possible that allow for their data to then be synced into something else. As long as they're not having their own walled garden approach, we can pull that data in and then the person can use it in different ways. Um, but within that, then we'll be able to see what are people using the most and also what data that is being collected by these devices is having the most impact in terms of people's health as well as what is worth the most. And so within that, then I believe we'll be able to develop a hardware device that will be able to benefit people the most as well as like giving the best insights for them. So there is a big goal for that. What's interesting is as I ask myself, okay, what does that look like? I don't know quite yet because I have a feeling it's going to be, I just don't know what that device is currently, but there are plans to do that. And so I always trust that things unfold at the right rate. And very similarly to how right now, like I mentioned earlier, we are in the perfect cross section of time because of the access to things like layer zero, IoT, AI, and ML. Amazing. Like we were in the perfect time to build this company. I fully trust that very soon we'll be in the perfect place to develop hardware that is a great accompaniment to the app. So I look forward to it, but I wish I knew what it was, but I trust myself. I trust my intuition. I'm like, I'll know when I need to know what it is. But yeah, definitely something that we are very excited to get into.
Awesome. That's really exciting to hear. And I agree with you on trusting the gut and intuition. I think that's where the truest knowledge comes from. Um, what about, and I don't, if you can't share, what about Dr. Dragon
Mm.
and Arizona State? Do you have some stuff cooking with him and that partnership?
Oh yeah, we love Dr. Dragon and we love ASU. They have been incredible partners. So what we've already accomplished with them is we're using their HIPAA compliant blockchain. We have granted ASU $100,000 that's being used for scholarships for students who are in blockchain and really like state channel, well now Metagraph development. We even hired our CTO, who's a former student of his, through them. So they've just been the best. And so they're going to help us in the future here with app release. And so getting the ASU student body engaged, that's huge. I mean, there's 100,000 students there. So that's a big potential draw for us into the app. And then we're going to be working with them primarily on an R&D basis. Like we have some really unique ideas around how to use AI and machine learning to manage things like our state channels, manage our groups. And so I can't get too into it, but we have an initiative now that we really are diving into with them to look at how we can use that in other ways within our app and our ecosystem to really keep things true, prevent people from faking things, prevent people from trying to manipulate the system in any given way. So, yeah, we're really excited to keep working with them, primarily on research and development of some out there ideas.
Awesome. That's so cool to hear. Everyone, we're going to open up to community questions, last 5-10 minutes. But Jenny, I was just a little bit on the tokenomics. I know there's been research done in terms of the monetization revenue potential for us using
Mhm.
users of the JennyCo app. So let's hypothetically say I've got my genetic test in there. I've done the questionnaire. I got some lab tests. My EHR records are sinking in. I mean, how valuable is this data all put together? Is there a monetary, rough estimate that you could tell us that we could expect users of the app that we could potentially earn from this?
Yeah, so we get that question regularly, and we have looked at how currently people are being compensated for studies and things like that, and how much their data is worth out there in the market, and it really varies. It varies everywhere from like $1,000 to like $30,000, and based on the study. But we believe that this will be reoccurring. Annually people can earn, and based on the studies they're participating in, of course, and the value of those studies, how long they go on. But I hope nobody later on holds a gun to my head and is like, "You told me this, and yet you didn't give it to me," because that sucks. But my gut says that I think this is easily worth $1,000 on a minimum basis a year to a person. But what I feel more accurate about is somewhere closer to $5,000. But I think it could
Wow.
go up from there. I really feel that the more that people are contributing to it and participating and adding to this overall momentum of hopefully people finding cures, healing themselves, just feeling better, that there's going to be a really great flywheel of that money. And we just knowing how much this data is worth, like if we look, it's a $50 billion industry right now in this country alone. You could divide that up among everybody and get to a number, but not everybody's going to use it. Not everybody's data is being used. So it it's I hope it's a lot. I really do. I want to see people
Yeah.
like, I want people to be healthier and wealthier. I feel very strongly about that. And so for us, that's a big driver, is how much money can you get to people's hands for their data and for the insights they're contributing.
That's awesome, and yeah, I love that. Is there any, like, in terms of that first purchase? So, to my knowledge, hey, we've got this collection in JennyCo. Okay, we've got this outside group. They want to lease this data. If you get like $1 million sale, does 800,000 USD get bought on the open market of the JennyCo token? Is that kind of how it works?
Yes, pretty much. That's pretty much how it will work. So
Okay.
that is the tokens that get put into the group that then joins into that study. So it'll most likely be off of the open market. And or we have to consider that sometimes these are like, and we may have to facilitate that for these entities, because they're not going to know what they just want to get good insights. They just want to have some good information, and they know that they have to pay for that. So we may have to do some of that facilitation for them in terms of converting that fiat into the tokens into the system. But yeah, you're right in general how it will work.
Awesome. And I know people with genomic data, it's like, hey, I don't want my genome out there floating around. Like, that's valuable data that could be used against me. If you could just do a quick, like, just the security of the data, just to know that we know it can't be hacked and used against us,
Oh yeah.
the models you're using.
Yeah, so because we're using this HIPAA compliant blockchain, the data is, of course, like fractionalized out as it is via a blockchain, and then it's stored only in HIPAA compliant places. So within that as well, this is also where we're looking at using AI to essentially, we've been calling it patrol, to patrol, and like as an additional layer of security to be like, like something seems a little fishy, or there's an attempt to try to get to a piece of data. So we are very concerned about the security of it. And so that's been the primary focus, quite honestly, of our development so far within the app. It has been so focused on the back end, just making sure that the way that people contribute data, how it's attributed to them, how they can use it, and how they can delete it fully is intact. So yeah, that's been a very, very big part for us. But I'm really excited too that we're using this HIPAA compliant blockchain, because that means the way that we're dealing with data is highly compliant, especially when it comes to medical rules, and in keeping somebody private. So not only is it just blockchain, which is a way of keeping things private, but we have that added layer of this HIPAA compliance on top of it. So, it will be virtually impossible for anyone's data to be hacked.
Excellent. Yeah, and thank you for your emphasis on that. That's so important. It's like we clearly can't trust these ancestry EMEA and stuff like that. And so I appreciate that. Hey, everyone, I'm gonna ask one more question, but in the meantime, if you have a question for Jenny, please request to speak now. I'll bring you up, and we'll try and get to as much, a few of the questions. So Jenny, and this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And what you guys are building truly is extremely powerful, and I just think it pushes humanity forward. And that's why I've personally become kind of obsessed with Constellation, its ecosystem, and JennyCo, is because it allows me to see a brighter future.
Mhm.
And now I want to direct my energy towards bringing that to life. So I guess overall, as a community, all of us, we're JennyCo loyalists. We're warriors for you guys. How can we advance the mission best for you?
Oh, I love that. I really do. Like I believe that we can build a much better, healthier future for ourselves. And so the way that anyone could support us is is to really use the app, and once we have that out there, and to tell other people to use it as well, like to get the benefit from it. So that would be huge. We want it's funny how many apps I've learned about that you truly just came from somebody else saying, "Oh, you got to try this one. Like this is a great app for X or whatever." And I would love for us to be in that position. I want people to say, "Hey, this has been awesome, and I've earned these tokens, and my data is doing good things." And so that would be the best. Truly, that's what I would love. Also, the ideas. As people are using it, we have, for example, a whole list of future potential features. We have the ones that we're more closely zeroed in on for our next upcoming releases, but we also have ones that we're like, we don't know. Maybe people will want this, maybe they won't. So we are also looking for people to bring up ideas and say, hey, could we do this? That would be pretty cool. We want to build an app that is like for the people. And so we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is really very, very, very focused on the person who is using it. So yeah, using the app and telling us what they'd like to see within it would be amazing.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly will, and I think the network effect here could be pretty insane. But my man Miguel is up. Miguel, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? Appreciate you guys hosting this. This is awesome. Yeah, so I have a few, so I'll just start off with one, and if we have time or if anyone else has a question, they can hop up. But regarding the AI component, will users be able to own, control, or maybe even train their health AI, such as sending in maybe research article links or YouTube links to various psychologists or doctors that maybe they align with or are interested in learning from?
Yes. So, part of this, I love that question and idea. So, part of our approach with the walled garden is to give each person their own personalized instance of an AI that they can work with and they can train based off of what has worked and hasn't worked for them. So, that could include, here are some research papers that I've read recently. Here is a video that I've watched. And as you are training it and it's gaining more and more insight and giving you potentially different recommendations, and you give back to it, that really worked for me. It will become much smarter towards just you. So that is a very big approach for us. Like the personalization of the AI is the most important thing. I mean, I just think about going to Google and typing in typing in something, and you go down the WebMD rabbit hole, and it's just like a mess, and you don't know if any of it's true, or if it's actually what you're dealing with. In this case, we want people to feel very comfortable being able to communicate with their aspect of the AI and to contribute what they're doing as well as what other people may be doing to help customize that. Um, because that Michael has said it so many times on the different calls we've been on, the outcome data is the most important data. So if we can contribute to our own personal AI and outcome data, it can better analyze us. So as an example, I took a genetic test a long time ago, and it told me essentially what kind of diet I should eat and what kind of exercise I should engage in. But it also gave me the disclaimer, we have really good valid information on men, but we don't for women. And what was funny is it told me that because it didn't have enough information on women who were my age, who were exercising the way I was currently exercising. It had this really funny assumption that I was going to be like a type 2 diabetic, that I was most likely obese, and I'm not. None of those things are actually true. So that's an example where if I had gotten that result in a genetic test, I could then go back and tell the AI, this is what I do. This is how I work out. This is how I currently eat. This is all the current data on me, and this isn't an accurate recommendation. So it can become smarter. Oh, okay. So now we do have some data on who this person is and we have some insight. So let's give some better recommendations. So yeah, Miguel, we want it to be so highly personal that you could contribute information into your instance and get back better results for yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely love that answer. Appreciate you elaborating too. And I just want to end it off with one other question. Um, so, will there be a way for the user's health AI perhaps to communicate to their healthcare providers or physicians on the patient's behalf, or to sync this health data to the hospital's patient portal or their EMR, kind of just to help eliminate the low health literacy gap?
Yeah, that would be huge. For us to be able to sync the data into those systems is going to be an important piece. Like I was mentioning earlier, we have to think about how those systems are currently architected and what sorts of data they are capable of taking in, and then where we can take, for example, a recap of Miguel's health and where he's currently at and how that gets ported in so the doctor can see that, read that before they come in to meet with you. So they're already starting off from a better vantage point. So that would be huge for us. I do think that there would be opportunities and potentially necessities for people to have an ongoing sync. Let's say you're really going through it. You have something going on that's a very acute disorder that you are managing, and it's truly a day by day thing. I would love to see that data be automatically synced with the doctor, and so the doctor can get alerts that, oh no, like Miguel really something spiked today. He needs to come into the doctor's office, or he needs to have a certain treatment, whatever it is. I think that would be great because that could also potentially eliminate deaths that don't need to happen, or diseases that start to spiral, conditions that spiral out of control before there can be an intervention that's made. So those are all, really wonderful additions and ideas for how this app could work, and where I would like to see it go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Miguel. I
Thanks.
appreciate you.
Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate it. Hey, we got three more questions and then we'll end. I want to be respectful of Jenny's time. We got a daghead here. He's got a DTM profile pic, HTTP number 4. I love it. You're up next, man.
Hi guys, thanks for letting me ask my question. Jenny, how do you see it going internationally? I mean, you're focused on the US.
Mhm.
Anything, any plans on? Can you shed some light on it?
Yes, we do have plans to be international with this. And uh, what's really interesting is as soon as Michael and I started to build this, we started to have interest from people from other countries saying, hey, we want, our country needs public health. We need a better access for our very large population of people, like take India, for example, over 1 billion people over there. How do you get healthcare into someone's hands on a daily basis so that your overall population stays healthy and doesn't become an economic drain or an impact to what's potentially available for the country? So we do have that. Now, how that would probably work is JennyCo would engage in joint ventures with these other countries, wherein we would contribute technology and they would contribute their language translation, the population, all that sort of stuff. But the way we view it right now is the data would remain separate, and for a good reason. Some of these countries, we definitely do not, there's just no reason for any of our data to be going there. But there are countries that really are looking for this help to support their citizens. So we would likely joint venture and make the technology available. And they would have to, manage other aspects of it from a regulatory basis and what their laws and compliance things are in their country. But all these things would be very walled off. right now from each other. So we do plan on international expansion. I think the easiest ones obviously are our neighbors to the south and neighbors to the north. Not really too hard to do, in our opinion, but international is a big focus for us for sure over the next year or two.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, number four. We got two more, Bear Jew, and then we'll finish with Zarathustra. Bear Jew, what's up, man? It's all you.
Thank you. I think most of my question was actually answered through Miguel when you were talking about just the personalized recommendations. I work as a speech language pathologist in medicine, and so I'm constantly working with a variety of other health professionals. And I guess my other main thing is in what way do you think that this, with this data being synced up into the JennyCo app, I guess my other thought process is how it can help specialized parts of medicine communicate better, and how it can help them make better decisions. Because, like in speech therapy, we primarily work in rehab, right? We're not really working in prevention. Unfortunately, in those cases, the bad things have already happened. But I'm just thinking about in terms of helping make better healthcare decisions for patients after they've already had incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And there's so many times that only time we go to the doctor or to a therapist or anything is because we've just had a problem. Something just happened and we now need to go deal with it. So, I could see a way that medical providers, let's say that they do want to have better insights on their patients. They could say, hey, we use this app. I'm going to add all the electronic records I have on you now. Take this test or whatever it may be that you think might be beneficial to you as a provider in a very specialty care area, and then leverage within the app that AI system that ideally then that information around that patient that is yours as the medical provider could also come back to you, so you can start making better decisions. Because you could go out and you could have them take the test, you could take them back in and try to do your own analysis off of them, but if there's a platform in place that can do a lot of it for you, hopefully maybe you can identify some areas where there's great benefit through a small change. And so, I could see that working. We want to have this be something that works very well with medical providers. We want it to be of benefit to them. Medical providers right now, most doctors are so overwhelmed. They have so much on their plate. And so they get in front of a patient and they do their absolute best, but they're working within a short time period with limited information. And if they've never seen the patient before, it's all new. Everything is new. And so if we can speed up that ability for a provider to get way better insights about their patients, that's really where we'd love to play a role in helping you with your job.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you just got me thinking about, like, as the app develops, your guys' ability to make deals with different medical providers, like Ochsner or Kaiser and those types of places. So that makes me really, really excited, because I would like to see something like this become a main staple in those avenues.
Yeah, me too. I really appreciate your question.
Thank you, Bear
Thank
Jew. All right, we will finish off with Zarathustra. Take us home, man.
Hey, Julius. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for this. My question's around what the vision is for the average user's daily, I guess, conversation with the AI component. Is it a constant flow of kind of like updating what's been going on in life, what's been going on throughout the day, what routines are looking like, what diets like, and then the AI is giving almost just kind of like advice on a continual basis? Like, how much is it like an everyday sort of deal in terms of interacting?
Yeah, it can be. We want it to feel like that. So, I sat down and I did this brainstorm and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, how would I use the AI? From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, what am I doing with it? So I was thinking, okay, so let's say I wake up and I'm like, I didn't sleep well. Maybe I would say to the AI, I didn't sleep well last night. I woke up at 3 and I didn't fall asleep again until 5. And maybe if I have like some sort of sleep device, that sleep information is synced. Maybe I can ask, like, what should I do today to help me keep my energy levels high? And maybe it would then give me back some insight. Hey, don't eat a sugar laden breakfast. It's going to make you crash. Eat these sorts of things. Get outside and be in the sun. Go exercise. Great. As I go through my day, maybe then I eat something at lunch and my stomach like really hurts. So I can say, I ate this for lunch today, and I can say what I ate. And my stomach is in such pain. Is there any reason that it could be something that I ate. And maybe it could look at then at my genetic predisposition, maybe my food allergy test or something like, oh, yep, there it is. You ate raw egg yolks and they don't go well with you, whatever it is. So that's how I'm kind of envisioning it. Or I'm going to the gym, I want to go work out, and I could ask it like, hey, write a workout program for me today that emphasizes leg day. I want to work out my legs, and it could give me a workout. So that's how I'm thinking. I want it to be useful in a lot of moments of the day. It could also be a place where then you say things that you've done. So, hey, I drank 2 gallons of water today or whatever, and it will start aggregating that information. So it could be as much as somebody wants it to be, or as little as they want it to be. So we'll have to see. I'm almost envisioning myself using it in weird ways. Like, talk to me like you're a drill sergeant. Tell me that I have to go to bed on time. So yeah.
That's hilarious.
And so it's pulling information from more than just health data. It's like it's combining health data with almost life data.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Zarathustra. Hey, Jenny, this is amazing. Really honored that you took the time to talk with us. What you're doing is God's work. It's so pure, and appreciate you bringing this technology into the world. And anything I can do to help ever, please let me know. I want to be a part of this.
I really appreciate those comments so much. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm happy to do this anytime with you, Julius.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. See ya.
Bye.